And I'm going to give you a bit of a demonstration this week as we go through some things. This is for Project 2 called Typeforms. And you're going to get two demonstrations. I'll probably splice them together as one video, but I thought I'd do a screen record first to help you set up the base document that everything's going to end up being in, okay? Now you can use InDesign or you can use Illustrator. I think you would be happier with your results in InDesign. So probably stick with InDesign. So this particular document, and you'll see it on the handout, I believe it's the very last page, it gives you a diagram of how it's going to end up being laid out, okay? Now there's going to be 6 of these. And you're going to end up putting them all into one PDF, one multiple page PDF together. So let's go ahead and read through this particular assignment, and I'll try to answer questions as we go along. So you're going to choose a single letter, a single character, or a single glyph, one letter, number, or punctuation mark, and find 6 different glyphs, which in this case means forms of it, that end up being approximately 5 to 10 inches high. Okay, so you're going to end up looking for a character that is going to be different based on what font it happens to be from at that particular time. So I'll show you some examples. You know, that could be question marks. There's quite a few examples on your handout. On the second page, you can see the top one is an ampersand, and we have a Q. You can see a letter A, you can see a number 3, you can see a number 5, and then the letter G. Okay, so there's lots of examples there, and when I do the demonstrations, you'll see even more examples, okay? So you're hunting for one character, and then you're going to use that character in 6 different fonts, okay? And it would be a good idea to choose a character that changes as it moves from one font to another. Okay? The more different from each other your 6 glyphs are, the better. Same character, but different glyphs. Try tracing at least one sans serif, one serif, one black letter, and one decorative version of your letter form. Okay? Trace each glyph carefully and take note of the shapes, form, and counterforms of the letter as you draw. Try tracing with different tools. You can use a pencil as a tool, a pen, an X-Acto knife. Try tracing on different papers using a light table if necessary. You may fill each outline or use them as outline forms. Okay? That means that you're going to be able to do this with all sorts of different media depending upon how you want to do it, and I'll demonstrate several of them when I actually get to the point of demonstrating. Okay? All right. So the key with this InDesign document we're about to set up, okay, because you're going to end up having to scan these 6 physical drawings, and you're going to end up having to put them inside frames in InDesign, okay? And it's very specific. I even give you an example on that last page. It shows you exactly what that square is supposed to look like, where the font name is supposed to go, and where your name is supposed to go, and your name should only be on the first page. Now it's in landscape mode, okay? So here we go. Scan your best drawings in at high resolution, convert to grayscale if you used color, compose each drawing into a 7 by 4 inch area. You may also resize, crop, rotate, or repeat the drawings of the letter form in your composition, but do not stretch or distort it. Be sure to consider both the positive and negative space within your canvas, which is that 7 by 4 inch area. Use good digital craftsmanship when placing images in the box. Make them occupy the space. Okay? So, what we're going to do is this. We're going to go ahead and set it up. Now, these are going to be letter-sized documents. You know that you're going to have a 7 by 4 inch frame in the middle of it, right? Okay, and you're only going to show one drawing per page, and you're going to use a thin gray rule, which is a 0.5 point 50% black, okay, letter. All right, so what does all that mean? Okay, so let's go ahead and set up our document. Okay, so we're going to create a new document. Okay, let's go ahead and make it print. Okay, it's letter size. We know that it's supposed to be landscape. Okay, margins, gutters, none of that matters. Okay, none of that matters at all. Okay, so I'm just going to tell it to create. I can add more pages later. Okay, I can add more pages over here if I want. Is it facing pages? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Okay, now be sure your rulers are on just to help you. Okay, so we know this rectangle is supposed to be 7 by 4 inches because width always goes first. Okay, so I'm going to take the rectangular frame tool, here it is, okay, and I'm going to click and release, okay, so that I can put in the specific measurements that I want. So I know it's going to be 7 inches wide, and I know it's going to be 4 inches tall. Okay. All right, so it made the rectangle for me. There it is. Okay, now, this rectangle is supposed to have a 50% gray half point line, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to where my stroke stuff is, up here on top, okay? And I'm going to use the pull down, and I'm going to tell it to be a 0.5 point line, okay? Now, the stroke should automatically darken in up here on top. And so I'm going to hit the little chevron here on the side, okay? And I want a percentage of black, okay? Is what I'm going to end up wanting, okay? So, this is weird. Did they change something? Wow. Okay, I used to be able to fix that stuff right there. That is a very, very recent change, so that's a little bit weird, but we'll work it out. Not a problem. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come over to my tool panel and swap these, okay? And then see if it allows me. No, it's still giving me this weird, it won't let me tint it. Oh, that's weird. It must have been registration or something. Maybe that's why it wasn't letting me do it. Okay? So I'm going to move it back to the stroke. So I'm going to come over here to my swap button and hit it. Okay? Now I should be able to, yep, it's a tint, it's 100%. And I'm going to go to 50%. Okay? So what that means is, if I look at it, it's a half point gray line, 50% black. Now, how do I get it centered? Okay, well, Smart Guide should be on. Okay, there it's showing that I'm in the center. If you want to be sure, you know that your center is going to be at, okay, so we're dealing with 11, so it's going to be 5.5. There's a center, okay, and the other center is going to be, if I go by, it's going to be 4.25. That's if I wanted it to be centered. I probably don't want it to be centered because if you look, okay, we need to put the font name down here and we need to put your name at least on the first sheet, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, let me double check, okay. Typeset your name in 8-point sans serif in the bottom right hand part of the page. Set type on a guide 2 inches from the bottom of the page and align flush right to the 7 by 4 inch area. Okay, that's a lot of technical stuff. Okay, but it's not complicated. So you're going to set your name and the font. Okay, so set a guide 2 inches from the bottom of the page. Okay, this is 8.5 high. 2 inches would be 6.5. Okay, there's a guide right there, 2 inches from the bottom. I don't have to make it any more complicated than it is. Typeset your name in an 8-point sans serif Okay, so I'm going to get my type tool, okay, and I'm going to make a text box, and I'm going to right align it. Look up here in the top of the menu bar. I'm going to right align it, okay. So this is a little bit different. So this particular project has changed a little bit because what I want down there before your name is actually the font that you used. So I'm going to just say that I use Helvetica Nuo. Okay, that's the font that I'm actually going to use. I'm going to double check the spelling over here. See if I've used it recently. Yeah, it's Neue. Neue LT. And I think there's even a pro in there. Where did it go? That was weird. I wonder how that moved like that. Okay, LTSTD. Okay, so that's the name of the font. Now, I asked for it in 8-point. Okay, so I've selected the type, and I'm going to change it from 12-point to 8-point using the menu bar if I want. Okay, now it's 8-point. Okay, now the first page is also supposed to have your name on it. Okay, so for your first page, all you need to do is option drag. Okay, bring it down. Okay. And remember that only needs to be on the first page. So if I go to looking at it in preview mode, that's how complicated it is. Now what's going to happen is when you're all done, you're going to be scanning these things in and putting them inside this frame, inside the frame because it's in design. Okay? So now what you're supposed to do is find some interesting glyphs or whatever, okay? And they're going to end up being 4 to 5 inches tall, okay? So what I'm going to do is this. I can continue to use this box if I want to. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and use this same box, okay? So I'm just going to use my type tool. I'm going to use it up here, okay? And I'm going to use the ampersand, okay, which happens to be Shift 7. Okay, made this box way too big. Okay, now remember in InDesign, if you hold the Command key down, grab the corner, then hold the Shift key down, you can resize something as much as you want. Okay, so like here's that thing. Now what if I wanted 2 of them? Option. Now I've got 2. Option 3. Okay. So this is starting to be an interesting composition. I don't like it, but it could be an interesting composition. I think it's much more interesting to do something with, like, say, one of these. Maybe rotate it. Okay, you can do all sorts of things, just don't distort it. And if you know this is the font you can use, remember that you can turn it into a normal object. So I can come up here to type, okay, and tell it to create outlines. Now it's not a font anymore, okay? It is an object, so it's much easier to manipulate, okay? Much easier to mess with, okay? Does that make sense? I hope it does, okay? So there would be one of my documents, okay? Then if I was going to make some more, I'm going to grab this page, this box, and I'm going to do a copy so that I can paste it over and over again. I could put it on the master page, I suppose. Or better yet, what we could do is this. Okay? I'm going to go up to my master page. Okay, now in my master page, okay, we had that rectangle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to right click and I'm going to paste it in place. So that's my rectangle, right? Okay, that's the rectangle I'm going to use. So why don't I go ahead and lay in guides based on that? Okay, so there's a guide, there's a guide, there's a guide. Now remember, holding down the command key makes it go all the way across. Command key makes it go all the way across. Okay. And then what I can do is drag this over here until it's centered. There it is. It says it's centered. That's what smart guides do for me. And then I drop a couple more guides in here. Then I can delete that box. Okay. So now that rectangle's already kind of built in for me to mess around with it. So I can actually keep this first one safe and not mess with it too much. In fact, I could probably lock that page. But this is showing me, okay, I can see where this thing happens to be. All right. So now, if I get another one, okay. So I'm going to find a different one. So I'm going to use a decorative font. So this is like sample, okay. I'm going to use ampersand. Okay. Now I'm going to make it probably up here up on top. I'm going to make it like 300 point. Let's see how big that is. Oops, I need to select it first. My bad. Up here, 300 points. That is one ugly ampersand. That one does not even deserve to survive. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change this font. So Go Soul sucks as an ampersand. Pinocchio's a little more interesting. That's just script. That's a nice one. Okay. Now, of course, it's, kind of the wrong size, so I'm going to hold down my command key, click on the bottom right corner, start moving, then hold the shift key. And I'm going to resize this thing. Okay. So, if I want to reflect this across, okay, I can do it a couple different ways, but what I can do is see this is my letter form, right? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to right click. I'm going to tell it to paste in place. So now it's sitting right on top of that one. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and right click again. And I'm going to tell it to transform, flip horizontal. Okay. There it did it. It did it for me. It moved it over here, okay, which is fine. So this is what I was thinking of. It's like, what are these two going to look like together? So now I'm moving them into my rectangle space. Okay. If I wanted to get more of the characters, I could click and hold down the shift key, maybe move them down a little bit. Okay. So I know that all that's I'm going to end up using is this space right here. Okay. Just that space right there. All right. So I am going to option drag this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print this one out to use for the demonstration. So again, when you're all done, you're going to scan them in as grayscale and put them into 6 pages set up exactly like this. Okay? And there's examples, okay, on your handout. And what that means is that it fits inside of that rectangle. Okay, that's why I brought the rectangle down here for it to be printed out. Okay, it's because I need to know how big that rectangle is Okay, so that ends the demo as far as on the computer, and now we'll go ahead and switch to the physical demo where we're actually messing with it once we print it out. Okay, so I went ahead and printed it out, and this is what I ended up with right here. Okay, this is the printed out version of the ampersand in that particular font. And so now you have to decide what you're going to do with it. And we've done lots of different things in the past. There was this particular one right here where we actually used a kind of metallic transfer film on this one to play with a little bit. This one I played with the omega symbol, okay, and I tried some of that same metal stuff. But then I decided to go ahead and do kind of a Prismacolor pencil, playing with the negative and the positive space on that. Okay, and looking at your assignment, okay, you've got several examples of different things done with it. And I have a whole stack of different things that have been done with it. This one happens to, people have used the note, people have used the S. There is very clearly an S in the black letter. Somebody used question marks one time, and this is one version of the question marks. This is another version of the question marks. Here's another version of the question mark. Playing with the pattern as the question mark. This is just a bunch of different sizes that she knocked out and gave herself a sampler page. This is it by itself. Here's the question mark being played with. Here's the letter S. There's one version. There's another version. There's this S. There's this S. There's these S's that were turned into kind of a snake thing. Here's an S. Here's an S. Okay. So you have lots and lots of different options on what to do with it. So you're going to physically manifest it however you decide to go ahead and do it. Okay. And so I'm using tracing paper right here. Okay. Now remember, this is going to go into that rectangle. So I am going to go a little bit across that line space. Okay. So tracing, don't do it fast. Take your time. Whoops, see, I already messed up right there. That's why I have my eraser handy. And I have a very, very upset dog in here. Because all the other dogs went for a walk, and she didn't because she's limping, so she's very not happy. All right, so I'm buzzing through this fairly quickly. Okay. And you'll notice I went ahead and did this even though it's showing that it's outside of that rectangle, because I want to give myself room to play, or slop if you want to use that term. Okay? Oh, my pencil's behaving not well. There we go. My pencil gets dropped a lot. And so you're just kind of going through and kind of thinking about this letter form and analyzing the letter form as you go, and you would go all the way around it. Now, you're going to do several of these. You do a total of 6. If I remember the assignment, oh my gosh, I buried my assignment somewhere in here. You have some options on what you want to do. You could also do negative space if you wanted to, which means, go ahead and fill all of this in with black. Okay, but you don't have to do it one way or the other, because you have 6 examples, and I want at least 3 of them to be done with something other than pen and ink, okay? Because, yeah, we do have these, okay, and we can use them as tracing tools if we want. Do all sorts of different things. Like, what if I wanted to go ahead and thinking about this space out here where I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Just going to create some texture using that line there. So, you know, and then I could go ahead and fill this all in, okay? And I'd probably want to use a bigger thing to fill it in with, okay? Don't outline this box on your tracing paper. It's going to make you crazy if you do it, so don't do it, because then you're going to have to remove those lines in Photoshop. So don't do it. You can use Prismacolor pencil if you want to fill in this space. It doesn't matter. You're just trying to work up a composition. You're trying to kind of better understand the letter form. Okay. In the past, we've even done things where we actually cut things out. Okay, where like this letter G that you have in your examples, this is actually an orange piece of paper behind this white piece of paper. And it ends up scanning in as grayscale, but this will still end up being in your binder, which is kind of nice. Okay, and so to do something like that, okay, you would go ahead and trace it like we did. Okay, and then what you're going to end up doing is taking something like an X-Acto knife, like maybe I traced it onto a piece of paper or whatever. You're going to take your knife and go ahead and cut this out. And maybe there's going to be something behind it. Maybe there isn't. You know, you could just go ahead and cut that out and just play with it all you wanted to. So you have lots and lots of different options as far as what you want to do with it. Some people have watercolored before. And then these, you can just kind of store those somewhere, your originals, because you're not going to use these anymore. What you're going to do is scan these in. You're going to take these to your scanner, scan them in, and then put them into that document with whatever it was, the font that you used. And it's really handy to write the font that you used on these things so that you remember when it comes time to actually put them into your InDesign document. And then you export that whole InDesign document as a single PDF. Okay, so it's a single multi-page PDF, and then go ahead and post it. Okay, so if you have any major questions, I can do this again. You know, we can talk about it on Monday, or we can talk about it on Wednesday. But this is pretty much how this particular assignment goes. All right, you're analyzing the form. You're trying to make something that occupies the space. This one was made with grid paper, which is just fine to use. This one was made with some kind of chalk on kind of a rice paper. This wonderful Q was just made with markers. But remember, I want 3 of them to be something other than pen and ink. You can do 3 of them in pen and ink, but I want you to do 3 of them in something else. Whether it be pencil, colored pencil, watercolor, but it'd be marker. You know, if you happen to have a set of markers around, you can certainly do stuff with that. I happen to have a set of markers that I use for lots of things too. This is an artistic set of markers, so I use those. I use Prismacolor pencils. Okay. You can use the knife. You can cut something out. Unfortunately, we can't do these because you guys are at home, so you don't have access to color tag. Okay, but that's what this is called. It's called color tagging. So I hope that gives you an idea of what this assignment is supposed to be. You're going to take that one letter, okay, and use it in all the different versions of the glyph. Like this is an ampersand. It looks very different than this ampersand, but they're the same thing. They're just different fonts. Same glyph, same character, just a different glyph representing that character, which is the ampersand, okay? And you can use numbers, you can use punctuation, and you can use letters, okay? So I hope that gives you an idea of what you need to do. Maybe you're going to have to watch this video demonstration twice. I am not sure, but remember the scans are going to be grayscale. Okay, the scans are going to be grayscale. All right, you guys have a great day.